Hello, Lovelace, and welcome to today's English lesson. Our objective for today is to see if we can understand the structure of an Overcome the Monster story. So it's the same question as yesterday, but we're just going to look into it in a little bit more detail. Yesterday, we looked at the story Mountain, and we recognized that in the Beowulf story, the nightmare section, that point in the battle where we think our hero might lose, is missing. And so your challenge yesterday was to come up with an extra paragraph or an extra section of the story talking about the fight, where as a reader, we start to wonder if Beowulf will actually win. So maybe he gets injured, maybe he's thrown across the room. The fight is not going his way. So it makes us as readers start to worry about our hero. Okay, so that was your challenge for yesterday. And we're going to look in a little bit more detail at the various parts of the story today and pick out on some of the details, some of the features that allow them to fit into that part of the story, that part of the story Mountain. But we'll start with a short writing task just to get your writing brains switched on. Take a look at this picture. Just take a moment, and then I'd like you to write a short paragraph setting the scene, describing this picture. Now, this is not a story. I don't want any characters. I just want you to describe the scene. Okay? So the darkness, the mistiness, the eeriness. Create a spooky tone. Think about the soft squelching underfoot or the leaves rustling in the trees, in the breeze. All these different factors. So I'd like you to describe what you see in this picture. Okay, so just a setting description, no story. Okay, pause the video and have a go at that. Right, moving on. So we'll start with just a little reminder. Remember, this was our story Mountain for the defeat the monster stories, or overcome a monster story. We'd start with the anticipation. This is the part of the story where we set the scene. So in this case, the hero is made aware of a monster in a far-off land. He may be tasked to defeat the monster by his gods or his government, or he might choose to rise to the occasion on his own. Then we move on to the dream part. Okay? This is where the hero begins his journey. The process includes his preparation for battle and his expression of his goals. The monster is usually still far away, but the distance between the hero and villain is closing. Either the monster is closing in or the hero is on the hunt. Okay, so this is as our two main characters, the hero and the monster, start to come together. It talks about our hero's preparation, training, planning, all those bits of the story, but they have not yet met each other. Then the frustration. This is where the battle begins. The hero and the monster are face to face on the field of battle. This is where the reader and the hero start to doubt the hero's ability to win because the odds are sorely stacked against him. So this is where they first come together and we start to see the scale of the problem. Maybe it's a huge monster and just a small boy or a small man who's our hero. Maybe the monster's got all sorts of weapons or tools or parts, say sharp parts of their body, claws and things. And again, the hero has nothing or not very good weapons. So as the reader, we look at these two warriors, and we really do start to think the monster is going to win this one. Okay, so there is a frustration that we're thinking, but the hero can't possibly win this one. Look at him. Okay, so that's that part of the story, the start of the battle, where everything seems like it's unlikely our hero's going to win. Then we get to the nightmare bit. This is that stage in the story, or the stage in the battle, where it's really going very, very wrong for our hero. And we are convinced as readers that it's all going to end. So this is the black moment. This is the time when all hope seems lost and the future is more than just bleak. Maybe it's the end for our hero. Now, this was the section I asked you to write for the Beowulf story. Because in our version, Beowulf never reaches this stage. He jumps out from the shadows and he grabs Grendel by the arm and he keeps hold. And he keeps hold long enough to rip his arm off and win the battle. So there's no point in that version where we think as readers, Beowulf's going to lose. Beowulf's not got this one. So I asked you to create a paragraph, an extra section, to make us as readers think, maybe Beowulf is going to lose. Maybe in your paragraph, Beowulf was thrown across the room. Maybe he was thrown through some tables or a bench. Maybe he was clawed. Maybe he was bitten. Whatever it was, as readers, we were made to think that Beowulf can't possibly come back from this one. Okay, so once after the nightmare section, we get to this miraculous escape where our hero does win. The tide suddenly turns, everything changes in the story, in the battle. Maybe it's the hero's efforts, maybe it's his ingenuity, how clever he was. Maybe it's determination, maybe it's all three. And he's able to defeat the monster and good triumphs over evil. And in addition, in this part of the story, the hero can often be rewarded with riches or some sort of prize. Okay, so there's our story mountain for overcoming a monster. Now we're going to look at it in a slightly different way today. Instead of the story mountain, we've got this grid. Same words, so we still start with our anticipation, the start of the story, the dream, the frustration, the nightmare, and the miraculous escape. Okay? So our anticipation is the introduction of the setting and the support character, in this case, the king, King Hrothgar, and the rise of the problem. So in the anticipation, this is the part of the story where Grendel first attacked. We're introduced to the king, how he's such a generous king, and he has all these parties, but the noise from the parties wakes up Grendel and he attacks Heorot, leaving everyone dead apart from the king and leaving the great hall abandoned. The dream is the introduction of MC. This is our main character. So the introduction of Beowulf, our main character. And then the talk between the king and the main character about the quest, about his challenge, in this case, slaying the monster. Okay, so the introduction of Beowulf makes us as readers think this is going to be the hero. This is someone who could challenge Grendel. The frustration. Okay, this is that time at the start of the battle. So the journey to the monster or the monster's attack, and then the fight that follows. So in the story of Beowulf, it's the monster attacking because the monster returns and Beowulf is hiding in the shadows. He's waiting at Heorot, and that's where the battle takes place. Then the nightmare. The hero gets into a situation in the fight when all hope seems lost. The hero is about to lose. This was your part of the story. This was the bit that you did. Okay, so we'll come back to that one. And then finally, the miraculous escape. The resolution of the fight scene. The hero somehow manages to overcome the nightmare through his skill, through his cleverness, his courage, or just blind luck. And then he's rewarded for defeating the monster. And there might even be a hint that there's more trouble to come. So leading on to another story or another chapter in the story. Okay, so that's a recap of what these 5 terms mean. So these are the stages of the story on our story mountain, but this time we're presenting it in a grid. Okay. Now, your task today is going to revolve around you summarizing, picking out the key phrases in the actual text and putting them into these boxes. I'm going to explain, so don't worry. So here's the first part of our story. We're familiar with it, but I will quickly read through it again. Hear and listen well, my weary warriors. and I will tell you a tale that has been told for thousands of years and more. In ages past, Denmark was a wild place. Gruesome monsters roamed the misty moors. The king of the Danes, the warrior king Hrothgar, defeated many a foe, collecting riches and followers alike. He was known as a generous and fair king. He ordered work on a great mead hall to house all his bannermen. Soon there it stood, Heorot, made of the finest wood, decorated with silver and gold. Each night, the king invited his bravest warriors to a lavish feast of roasted meat, jugs of frothing ale, and music for dancing feet. Inside, the men ate and drank until they fell asleep. But outside, something evil was rising. Across the moor, a foul monster crawled from its swamp lair. The almost formless creature of nightmares slunk from its lair, howling in rage, as its slumber had been disturbed by the revel makers. Silently, the god-cursed brute crept into Heorot, waiting till the warrior king had left his hall, and in the dead of night, Grendel attacked like a sudden storm, leaving the hall in disarray. No bodies remained, only the life essence of their passing. Grendel ruled the night, and the great Heorot stood empty for 12 winters. Okay, so this is the anticipation part of our story. This is the introduction of the setting. It's the introduction of our support character, the king, and it's the creation of the problem. It introduces Grendel and why Grendel attacked. And it was simply because of the noise of the parties. So we're going to pick out some of the phrases, some of the little bits in here that say make up this anticipation. Here we go. So hear and listen. I think that's more effective than once upon a time. Because in this case, as we've said before, this is the type of story that would have been told to people around the campfire the night before a battle. If you're surrounded by dozens of warriors, you're not going to start your story with once upon a time. You're going to be far more aggressive and strong in your story. Hear and listen well, my weary warriors. I think a bit of a more appropriate start to your story. Ages past and Denmark. So this tells us when and where. Ages past tells us that this story took place a long time ago in Denmark, a place filled with monsters. So again, so we now know when, where, and we've got a brief description. Hrothgar, warrior king, generous and fair, defeated many a foe when young. So we've introduced our supporting character. Ordered Heorot built, amazing decorated hall. Again, coming on to our setting the scene, we now know where this story is in Heorot, in this decorated hall in Denmark. We know that Hrothgar holds feasts for all, and they're very noisy. And that's an important thing. So yes, we've highlighted that the king is kind and generous and holds all his feasts, but we need to know that these parties were very, very noisy. And that's what wakes the monster. So Grendel attacks Heorot and leaves no one alive except for Hrothgar for 12 years. Okay, so 12 years, the great hall is left empty. So all of these phrases we've taken straight from the text. So we've just copied extracts, copied words or phrases, but they highlight the key things that we need. That introduction, the time and place it took place, what it was like then, who are our characters, what they did, and why the problem was created. So the rise of the problem is because of the noise, Grendel attacks. Okay, so there's our anticipation. And you're going to be able to copy that particular one. Okay, so you don't need to think too hard about that one. You're going to be able to copy it. But your main task for today is to continue filling in those boxes. Remember, you need to pick out the key parts of the story, but in note form. No need for full sentences. Just pick out the key words or short phrases that highlight those things, the important parts of those stories. Okay? because these are the parts you could actually change if you wanted to rewrite or create your own overcome a monster story, just by changing some of these words, maybe these names or these places or things. You can maintain the plot, but change all the detail. Now, you're going to need to use your own written nightmare. So when we get to the nightmare box, that is going to be based on your piece of work from yesterday. Don't worry, I'm going to go through each bit of the story and explain. So the first one you're going to do, remember, anticipation you can copy. The first one you're going to do for yourself is the dream. So the introduction of our main character, the introduction of Beowulf, the conversation between the king and Beowulf about his quest, about slaying the monster. Okay, so what are the key words or phrases in this bit of text? News of this dreadful tragedy spread far and wide to all the princes of different lands. But only one of them, the greatest and bravest, Beowulf, decided this night terror must be stopped. Aboard a seaworthy ship, he sailed the whale road to Denmark with 14 hand-picked warriors. When Beowulf arrived, sudden hope warmed the old king's heart. Together, they feasted until night fell. Okay? So what are the key words in there? There's some lovely description in there. There's some great extra adjectives and descriptive words. But what are the key words? What are the most important words and phrases? Okay, that becomes your dream, and that needs to be written in this box here. Frustration. This is the journey to the monster, or in Beowulf's case, the monster attack and the fight itself. So again, listen, and what are the key phrases, the key words that are really, really important? Just to copy down in note form. As darkness swallowed light, the swamp bubbled and Grendel rose. Grisly, grim, and gruesome. No one word could describe this brute. Beowulf crouched in the shadows, his steely eyes fixed on the murdering monster. Without a weapon, Beowulf pounced, grasping the monster's arm. Grendel writhed and thrashed, but Beowulf would not let go. Grendel swiped and slashed, but Beowulf would not let go. The hall shuddered, benches shattered, but still Beowulf refused to let go. Okay, so can you summarize that paragraph? Can you come up with the key words, what you think are the really important words or phrases, and put them into this box, all about the frustration stage of the story? Now, the nightmare was for your part of the story, so I've just skipped on a little bit. Don't worry, we'll come back to nightmare in a moment. But here's the ending, the resolution of the fight scene. This is where our hero manages to overcome the nightmare through his skill, his cleverness, his courage, or just luck, and is rewarded for defeating the monster. So again, listen carefully and decide which are the important words and phrases here. He tugged the monster's arm and tore it from its body. Roaring in pain, the monster smashed through the walls and charged into the night, staggering across the moor. Beowulf stood, holding the monster's arm. He knew there was no way the beast would survive such a mortal wound. Its life ebbing away drop by drop. Grendel was defeated. By the next morning, the news of the great fight at Heorot had spread throughout the land, so that everyone should know that the tyrant was truly dead, and their grief finally at an end. The hero hung high in the gables of Heorot, where all could see that whole torn-off limb, gruesome witness to the monster's violent end. Okay, so what were the key phrases, the key words you think in there? So summarizing that part of the story. Okay, so here is your task. The anticipation section, you can click back through the video and you can copy the one that we did there. I would like you, please, to summarize the dream section, the frustration section, and the miraculous escape section from our text, and summarize your nightmare piece that you did for homework yesterday, or for your online work yesterday. Okay, so 1 to copy, 3 to do from the text, and then 1 from your own piece of writing. Okay, so 5 boxes to fill, but 1 of them is already done for you, and 1 of them is from your own notes. Okay, hope that all makes sense and is clear. But that's the end of today's session. Well done for listening. Well done for all the hard work you're producing. Take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and I will see you very soon.